Medieval Europe. The power between church and state is still very much interwoven. During the 15th and 16th centuries, national monarchies are consolidating independent state power, while Rome loses dominance due to religious reformation. At the same time, the Renaissance is well underway, as new perspectives on art and what would become the scientific method sweep through Western Europe. And simultaneously, tens of thousands of people, the majority of them women, were being hunted, tried and executed, mostly in a ghastly manner. For what exactly? For being accused of practicing magic. Magic with a malevolent intent, witchcraft. For being a mistress of the devil and a summoner and lover of demons. And also for being an unfortunate female outcast of a village, who got the blame for a failed crop. But what is a witch exactly? The word may originate from the Old English words for someone who practices witchcraft. Supposedly the root word being Wicca, which is actually masculine, and Wicke being feminine. It may also come from an old High German word, Halja Witjan, a combination of hell, the ancient German hell, and Witjan, to know, to understand. Therefore, a witch could be someone who knows the realm of death, or understands the realm of spirits, the unseen. During the peak of the witch trials, the general word witch became directly associated with women. And so in modern English, the word witch is more commonly used to refer to women, while a male practitioner of magic or witchcraft is usually called a wizard or warlock, but technically the word witch can refer to both men and women. What did so-called witches do that was so evil? What justified them being burned at the stake? Not that the church back then needed much to justify burning someone alive. There are many things to consider when uncovering this section of relatively recent history. Like all stories, context and setting are required to understand the motives of all the characters involved. Prior to any mass witch hunting, most of Western Europe, after having embraced Christianity as the Roman Empire fell, still held on to most of its pagan traditions. There was widespread belief in magic across Christian Europe. Norse, Celtic, Gaelic, and Germanic myths and oral traditions are full of magical events and personages capable of supernatural feats, both good and evil. The practice of magic, as we call it today, can be traced beyond medieval Europe to the oracles of ancient Greece, the sorcerers of dynastic Egypt's royal court, and the infamous magi of ancient Babylon. The term witch is in the Bible as well. Found in the first book of Samuel, King Saul seeks out the witch of Endor for help. In Exodus, the text tells us its readers to kill witches for their sins. Although the word witch is used, this doesn't mean they were referring to women in black robes wearing black pointed hats. They were referring to people with specific abilities. The point here being that the concept of a witch, whether that term was in use or not, has been around for centuries. Let's keep the scope of this video primarily about the Western European tradition of witchcraft. And I want to make a distinction between three things here: actual witchcraft and/or magic, healing abilities through energy or herbal remedies, and Satanism. The first two have been linked together since the concept of anything magical first dawned upon man. Practitioners of the hidden arts were well known for their abilities to heal others, and knowledge of botanical recipes that could heal, kill, curse, or otherwise endow the user with certain faculties was inextricably linked with knowledge of the unseen world. However, it was only until the mass witch hunts of the 15th and 16th centuries that witches and witchcraft became intertwined with Satanism. It was mostly during this time and earlier medieval periods that the church's concept of Satan, or the biblical devil, became prominent. The threatening form of the Lord of Hell and his demonic legions developed, and is where our modern concepts of the devil come from. This distinction is important because one can be a witch, so to speak, without being a Satanist. On the other hand, one can be a witch and a Satanist at the same time. Thirdly, one can be a practicing Satanist, but not a witch. The practices and rituals that we today call Satanism have also been around since ancient times and are closely associated with what we call black magic, in the sense that it's tapping into and making use of the same energies, but of a very low vibration. There is also some crossover between the two when it comes to summoning and contacting non-physical entities, either for benevolent or malevolent reasons. I risk digressing here, as this is easily a topic worthy of its own video. Suffice it to say, a Satanist and a witch are not inherently the same thing, but witchcraft can potentially open the door to darker things. With this in mind, the idea of a witch doesn't seem so out of place, as most cultures have a word for someone who works magic. Healers, shamans, druids, wizards, oracles, and so many more have existed and still do today, connecting with the earth and others to help, heal, guide, and revitalize. The medieval Roman Catholic Church divided magic into two forms: natural magic, which was acceptable because it was viewed as merely taking note of the powers in nature that were created by God, and demonic magic, which was frowned upon and associated with demonology, and therefore Satan, whom, remember, no one was really aware of until the arrival of Christianity. So here we see the practice of these arts being categorized into two groups, black or white, good or evil, when, in practice, it is more of a nuanced spectrum as to what can be considered good or evil. And who decided if what someone was practicing was natural magic or demonology? Well, the church, of course, and members of the Inquisition, as well as church-ordained witch hunters. By this time, most, if not all, pagan festivals had either been supplanted and merged with Christian festivals and holy days, or no longer upheld. Many hallowed pagan sites had chapels or churches built over them. Yet, many practices, some daily, some occasionally, but all of an esoteric nature, continued alongside Christian religious practice. It's important to remember that back then, people still attributed disease, misfortune, and tragic accidents to the workings of evil spirits. And as Christianity became more fervently entrenched, such things were considered the doings of the devil. Now consider the changing religious and intellectual landscape of Europe. Divisions between Catholicism and Protestantism, the rise of intellectual reasoning spurred on by the Renaissance, word of new exotic lands being discovered. All this was shattering people's long-held perceptions of the world. Feudalism was breaking, and a new social structure was emerging. Looking back from our vantage point, this is considered as progress. But living through such times with limited information can be frightening for many people. Many things were being questioned. Who could be trusted? Your Catholic neighbor or your Protestant king? Or how about the eccentric old lady who would talk to the village cats and also knew when bad weather was inbound? There can be a deep fear of something within society when people are attempting to make sense of their world while having an extreme amount of anxiety and fear of an imagined other. The attempt to make sense of a changing world is important because oftentimes individuals are attempting to relieve their own pressure and make sense of things. But because of the complications of their situation and their own ignorance, the only solution they arrive at is to blame an innocent victim, especially one that doesn't toe the official line, or in this case, beliefs. Now, if you have a powerful organization that is capable of coercing and manipulating this growing public fear and pressure with the aim of reinforcing its own authority, then you have the makings of a nightmarish form of mass psychosis that even the dawning age of reason was unable to mitigate.